How's it going, everybody? Hopefully, everyone's having a glorious day. We made it to Thursday, December the 7th. If you work Monday through Friday, that means the weekend is almost here. With that being said, we're going to be talking about California. I got a story from ground.news. California faces $68 billion budget shortfall due to lower tax revenues. Officials say California is facing a $68 billion budget deficit due to lower than expected tax revenues, high interest rates, inflation, and a declining stock market. Kind of interesting that they'll mention a declining stock market, but oh well. Lawmakers have options to address the deficit, including using cash reserves, reducing school spending, implementing additional cost shifts, revenue solutions, and ongoing spending reductions. However, more solutions will still be needed. The projected deficit is a record, and for the second year in a row, tax collections are insufficient to cover expenses, requiring hard choices for Governor Newsom and the legislature. Now I'm going to pull up another article from the Modesto. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Part of the McClatchy Media Network. California faces a $68 billion spending gap after tax revenue shortfall, reports say, by Lyndon Holden, Andrew Sheeler, and David Lightman. Updated December the 7th, 2023, 1:25 p.m. See here, that says I should be able to read this in 5 minutes and 14 seconds, but we'll see. Bad financial news keeps coming for the state of California. First, the nonpartisan legislative analyst's office released a report projecting the budget shortfall reminiscent of the Great Recession, and now the same office has released a follow-up report predicting a $68 billion budget cap. Forecast comes less than a month before California's lawmakers return to Sacramento to begin crafting a budget for the next fiscal year, which begins July 1st. Governor Gavin Newsom will present his proposal budget in early January. At the issue is an unprecedented revenue decline in fiscal year 2022-2023, which fell by $26 billion below what was estimated according to the LAO. I don't know what the LAO is. Did they mention that? Oh, the Legislative Analyst's Office. Gotcha. Normally, Legislative will have a complete picture of previous year revenue when it's shaping a new budget, but due to tax filing deadline extensions caused by several winter storms, and that was not the case this year. This creates unique and difficult challenges, including limiting the legislature option for addressing budget problems. According to the report, a collection of factors are at play here, including previous anticipated deficits of $14 billion and a $58 billion drop in projected revenue. Addressing the budget gap. Legislature will have a number of options for addressing this $68 billion deficit, according to the LAO. The lawmakers could decide to withdraw up to $24 billion in cash reserves. Could also lower school spending to the legal minimum, cutting general funds costs by $16.7 billion, but that won't completely close the gap. Even after using most or all of these solutions, legislators still would need to find more solutions to address the remainder of the budget problem. Other options include additional cost shifts such as more loans from special funds, revenue solutions, and ongoing spending reductions, according to the report. The LAO suggests that given the scale of the problem, legislators should immediately begin evaluating past spending to find monies that have been committed but not yet distributed. The office also warned that lawmakers will have fewer options to address a multi-year deficit in the future. The state's reserves are inefficient to cover the state's deficit, which averages about $30 billion per year. These deficits are likely necessary ongoing spending reductions, revenue increases, or both. As a result, preserving a substantial portion, potentially up to half of the reserves, would provide a helpful cushion in light of anticipated shortfall that lie ahead, the report said. The news was greeted by Senator Roger Neal, a Republican in Fair Oaks, who's vice chair of the Senate Budget and Fiscal Review Committee, was inevitable results of tax and spend majority. Republicans cautioned that this level of spending would lead to greater deficits and would be more prudent to show restraint. Neal said in a statement, unfortunately, the majority party ignored those warnings, enacting a budget in June that's already projected a $14 billion deficit, even before the LAO new report revised the deficit to $68 billion. California lags in revenue growth. Big problem for California faces that it does not appear that there's an easy way to raise more revenue. When you're already overtaxing your citizens, it's a little bit harder to get that last penny out of them. A new study by the Tax Foundation, a Washington group that studies tax policies, found that California had the third highest per person tax collection of any state. $9,175 in fiscal 2021 collection per household was $26,426. About 1/3 of the total individual collections came from individual tax income, and the highest per person collection in the country. California has a gradual income tax where the rates go from 1% for the lower income taxpayers to 13.3% for millionaires. In other collection categories, another $2,087 from property taxes, others per capital taxes, $1,516 in sales tax, and a $626 in excise taxes, $134 in motor vehicle license taxes, and $1,091 in business and miscellaneous taxes. California has the nation of the highest motor fuel tax, but what's driving the high national ranking is reliance on the income tax. Biggest revenue declines in the concentrated of California and New York, the high tax state with intensive reliance on high marginal income taxes, says Jared Localzi, Tax Foundation Director of State Projects. Not only are these states more vulnerable to income fluctuations among high earners, an important source of volatility, but an increase in mobile environment that are driving some of those higher earners to other states as well. Even before Thursday fiscal outlook report, California had lagged the country in revenue growth. New York and California combined state tax revenue is up to 2.9% on the inflation-adjusted terms since fiscal 2019, just before COVID pandemic, compared to 11.3% growth for the rest of the country. New Yorker has the highest per capita tax collection in the country with $10,286, next to Connecticut at $9,458. Alaska has the lowest tax collection per capita, which is $4,192. So that's the issue, is that they're overtaxing their citizens, and the more that they add more taxes to them, more people flee, or they just become homeless, which means you get no revenue out of them. So this is kind of a self-inflicted. So they keep raising the taxes, they keep spending because they're expecting growth, and when they overtax their citizens, people fled, or people that could flee already fled. Now, I guess there's people that were on the fence are definitely starting to move out now, which means that you won't have the income if you have less population. Detroit kind of saw this, but for different reasons. But it's self inflicted. When it comes to the government overspending, the government's overspending. This is no different than the federal government overspending. But the thing is, I don't think states can legally go bankrupt. I think what's going to happen is that the federal government's going to bail them out if they were to ever reach the point that they were going to be coming bankrupt, just kind of like how Detroit never went bankrupt because governments can't go bankrupt. But this is huge. I mean, I live in Texas where I complain about high property taxes, especially here in Travis County. But Texas doesn't have a spending problem. It may have a savings problem, but doesn't have a spending problem because we're got a surplus year after year. Now they say that's going to be temporary because of the higher cost of fuel, and that's where they were seeing the higher gains. But they didn't spend all that money. They put a good portion of that towards the rainy day fund. So Texas is going to be safe, whereas California just decided to spend when they didn't have the money. I don't know. It's very interesting and it's very disturbing, and I'm glad I'm not in California. That being said, if you have more information on this, please leave a comment down below. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.